Welcome back to a very special episode of Beyond NSU. I am your host, Chloe Ryan, and today I am here with running candidate for the 92nd District of the House of Delegates, Kim Sudderth. Ms. Sudderth attended Norfolk State University in 1989, but graduated from St. Leo University with a bachelor's in sociology with a concentration in diversity and inequality. But we're not going to hold her not graduating from NSU against her. She's here with us today in support of our university and student body. So how are you doing, Ms. Sudderth?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Of course, and it's so nice to see you again.
Yes.
We met the first time at your campaign party.
Yes, the campaign kickoff in
Campaign
January.
kickoff,
Yeah,
yes,
it was
and
very
it was
exciting.
a great event.
Yeah.
Really great event.
Thank you for coming.
No problem. It was an honor taking pictures.
Oh.
So before we get into all of your titles and roles that you have, I want to get into your education journey.
Yeah.
So you started at NSU in 1989.
Yeah, a million years ago, 1989.
So why did you originally choose NSU in 1989?
Well, I'm originally from Norfolk,
Okay.
and my parents would always go to Norfolk State basketball games and even the football games that were played on ODU's campus before we had a football field. And I've just always been a fan of Spartan Legion, and even though I didn't graduate from Norfolk State, my blood still runs green and gold. So, but yeah, it's been quite the journey from 1989.
Okay, and why did you leave?
Well, I ended up, well, let me tell you this.
Okay.
I'll start with, in 1989, I stepped foot on campus, and I majored in, I think, just general studies because I didn't quite know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go.
Okay.
And I ended up cheerleading for, I think, one season of the boys basketball team. And so that would have been 89, 90, somewhere in there. And over the summer, I met a guy, and we had a baby. And so it was really difficult with him being in the Navy and me being a new mother and trying to balance that family. I ended up taking classes here and there, but I never really could get back into it. But I kept coming back.
Okay.
And I would peck at the, at the curriculum. And then finally I decided to really just go all in. And that's when I picked St. Leo because it fit with my family life between raising the children and taking classes online and working full time. So that's when I graduated in 2020. So it took over 30 years
but
to
you
do
made
it.
And that's what matters.
Yeah.
And you graduated from St. Leo's
Yes.
with a bachelor's degree in sociology.
Yes.
And the focus on diversity and inequality.
Yes.
So why did you choose that major?
Well, I chose that major because I was working for a group called Mothers Out Front. I started working with them in 2016, and my job was to be a community organizer.
Okay.
And we were concentrating on bringing the mother's voice or women's voice into the climate movement.
Okay.
And so to that end, I'm working with lots of people who are directly affected by climate change. And many of them, and what we know about climate change is people who are affected first and worst are usually Black, brown, poor, or isolated, or some combination of that.
They are.
So I'm working hand in hand with folks that live in public housing communities or live isolated, out in Suffolk and deep out in isolated areas. And I'm realizing I'm running face to face with huge sociological issues, just intersecting with climate change. So that's when I got interested in sociology, and I saw that there was the diversity and inequality specialization, and so I chose that curriculum, but I didn't know that added a whole nother semester. But I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did it. It serves me well, and I think I'm a better leader for having that academic experience.
Oh, definitely, and it ties hand in hand with climate change. So you kind of beat me to my question about Mothers Out Front.
Yes.
You were with them for 6 years,
yes.
from 2016 to 2022.
That's right.
So why you stayed with them for so long?
Yeah.
So you said you were
well, I started out as a community organizer. And from there, a few years later, I became the senior organizer, and a few years after that, I managed the entire state for I was organizing director for the state for Mothers Out Front for Virginia. Yeah, that was really exciting.
How many states does Mothers Out Front?
Oh, you would ask me that.
Do you know? Can you get a gist?
I think I can name several. So Mothers Out Front originated in Boston, in the Cambridge area. So they're all over Massachusetts. Then they migrated over to New York, and they learned a statistic. This would have been 2015 or so. They learned a statistic that Hampton Roads is only second to New Orleans for our susceptibility to storm surges.
Wow.
Storm surges like Katrina. And they felt that it was important that there be a mother's voice here in Hampton Roads. So when I applied for that job, I really didn't know what it was going to be like being an organizer. I just knew that many of the attributes that they were looking for, I had those experiences, just volunteer coordination, event coordination, and several other just experiences. And so I applied, and I didn't realize this at the time, but my experience volunteering for the 2008 and 2012 Barack Obama campaign, that really set me apart. And honestly, I did that because I just couldn't let there be the first Black president of these United States and I not be a part of it.
Yeah.
So that's why I jumped in, and so that experience led to that.
Yeah, that definitely was a great opportunity. That was not in your bio. That was not in your bio. Well, the Barack Obama campaign, I want to talk about that. Let's pause on climate change and talk about the Barack Obama campaign.
Sure.
Now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So 2008, and I'll tell you, early in 2008, I was like, oh, he'd be a great vice president. But after researching him and actually speaking with one of the campaign's organizers, I learned about the campaign, and everything was rooted in community engagement and just going out and talking to people and being connected and being in relationship. And so from there, I went to a rally in Virginia Beach at the ocean front, and there's like thousands of people there. And everyone is represented. The Black people, white people, Asian, Hispanic, old, young, rich, poor, everybody was there. And I was looking out at that crowd and I said, that's what I want America to look like, where everybody's included. And so I signed up, and I didn't know what I was in for, but next thing I knew, basically I had just given over a good portion of my house and a good portion of my life. During that time. I don't regret a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was your role?
Well, I was a neighborhood captain.
Okay.
So my role was to organize my neighbors. That meant lots of meetings at the house, making sure that folks had all of their literature to go out and canvas, arranging for phone banking, just a lot of the work that is involved with community organizing. And Barack Obama was a community organizer himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically I learned from the best.
So would you say that while working on the Barack Obama campaign, or that experience working for his campaign, influenced you to run for the 92nd?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
And you said his campaign roots were based on community engagement.
Yes.
What are your campaign roots?
Same thing.
Really?
So far this year, I personally have knocked on about 800 doors.
Wow.
Yeah. A couple have gotten slammed in my face, but that's okay. I'm not for everyone.
Okay.
But for the most part, people have been telling me that no politician had ever knocked on their door before. This is the first time.
Really?
Yeah. And so I consider it an honor to be the first. And, you know, my hope is that they'll vote for me. And I tell them at the door, here's my flyer, you know, but feel free to Google me and make sure that, you know, I'm not telling tales out of school.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And when does voting close?
Well, early voting begins on May 5th.
May 5th. Okay.
This is for the primary.
Okay.
So the District 92, it's a largely Democratic district.
Okay.
So about 75% blue. So what that means is that most likely whoever wins the primary will win the entire race in the general election. So for right now, the race is the primary. So early voting for the primary is May 5th, and election day for the primary is June 20th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, that was really exciting.
It's very exciting.
So I want you to come back so we can continue this interview when you do win. All
okay,
right?
I accept that.
Okay.
I receive that.
Well, unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today's interview.
That went by so fast.
I know. It felt like 5 minutes.
It really did.
Yeah. So we're gonna continue this next
I'll be
time.
back. Thank you.
But I want to thank Ms. Sudderth for being here with us today, and I want to thank you all for watching. I'm your host, Chloe Ryan, and I will see you next time for another episode of Beyond NSU.